expenses in your house. I will give a small example how the budget in a house or in a family is you are maintaining. Same way every budget is to be maintained. For example, if you are going for travel, either as a tourist or if you want to go send your son or somebody outside for study. So you have to plan. That planning itself, financial planning itself, is the formulation of budget. You know how much money you have got from different sources, maybe your salary, maybe some interest you may be getting from bank. So all those things, how much money is available and how much is the requirement. Second thing, available money, first thing. Second thing, how much money actually you need for that specific purpose. Suppose you are, as I am telling, if you are going for study purpose or for visit to a particular place, suppose it is for study, how much fees is to be paid, where you are going to a specific university outside, how much will be the expenditure for staying, for hostel, how much you will be incurring expenditure for food, because you may be staying outside or in a hostel, then you may have to pay the money for food, money for stay, money for acquiring the books which you will be studying during your course, then other expenditure, day-to-day expenditure. So you plan what are the items on which you are going to spend the money during your stay outside, and then accordingly you formulate your budget. Out of your total money available with you, you may segregate some amount, give it to your child or to person who is going for study. This much amount is there. I am giving you some 15,000 rupees. You have, or 20,000 rupees. You have to maintain your expenditure for a month or whatever period it is. So, period, money available, the duration for which that money is given, and the purpose for what that money is given, different units, different things that is to be taken into account. Similarly, for an organization, for an institution like a library, you have to see what are the different units available, what are different sections, what are different divisions, and what are the functions done in each unit or in each division. You have to get the requirements of each division. And then what you do, after getting the requirements of each division or say for example, reprography division, acquisition division, technical processing division, maintenance, circulation. So how much amount is required for each activity in each division, you collect the information from each unit and consolidate that, aggregate that, make a sum of all the required sums from different divisions, from different units, and send your request to your parent organization in advance before the financial. Normally, what happens? Budget can be given on a calendar basis or a financial year basis, but normally all government organizations, corporate organizations normally begin the providing money to be spent is from 1st April and ending in the next year on 31st March. What we call that? What we call that year as a financial year. As you study in your college or in your educational institution, there we don't account the financial year. There we account as an academic year. Academic means educational year. That normally again begins from June, ends somewhere in April, There may be vacation after that. So similarly, in case of budget, the taken into account is the financial year, which begins from 1st April and so on 31st March of the next year. And this process of budgeting, collecting the information from different units, consolidating and providing it to the parent body, and from parent body, it goes to the government if it is a government organization. That process begins when well in advance, right from January or February itself, that process begins, and that consolidation, etc., will take time. And before the budget date, well in advance, maybe about a month before, all departments send their requirements to the ministries, and they are then on the budget day, whatever the requirements are, they are given to different ministries, that is announced, and further the budgets are provided to different ministries, and from ministries it comes to the various departments. From various departments it will go to relevant institutions. This is the process of budgeting in government. You know, now our next budget is going to be presented when? Anybody? In papers, they are telling that budget is going to be presented on a particular day in July itself. We are going to get our budget, government budget in July, maybe most probably 18th July or somewhere, sometime near that, we are going to get budget. Similarly, our organizations also make preparation for the our requirements in the form of formulating our budget, our organization budget, and provide it to the parent organization, and parent organization provides it to the ministry. So what we find here, finding out the requirements of each unit, then based on the estimates prepared by each unit, it is consolidated, and then whatever your requirements are there, that you see that you are spending those financial requirements, you try to achieve the organizational goals, your organization's goal during a specific period. So the main thing is achieving the goals, achieving the objectives. Whatever objectives are there, those are to be fulfilled by spending the available amount. So if you see, even if you see your study material also, you will find that what is the budgeting process given there. We in order to meet the legitimate objective or to achieve the given target, what you do, you have to see what are the available resources, which they also call as factors of production, and also possible quantum of resources to be made available. That means how much money you need. And then finally, the duration or the time for which that money is made available, which is to be spent. Otherwise, your money goes back to the organization, government, which has provided you. So there should be timely spending of the available amount. That is very important. Suppose they have given to your library few lakhs rupees, or a big organization, there may be 1 or 2 crores. So if you don't spend that amount during the specific period, that is from 1st April to 31st March, during the financial year, then that money is to be returned back, goes back to the government. So if if an organization or a library is not able to spend the time within the stipulated period, that means It is a, I can say, inefficiency of the librarian, on the part of librarian, that given money he could not spend on time. Many times, I am telling you example. Earlier, Dr. Abdul Kalam, our president, was there. Once what he has told, government provides lots of money for research purpose to different organizations. But what happens? Many organizational heads think that so much money, if you are returning back to the government after 31st March, it is a plus mark for them, a reward for them, that they have saved the money given back. But he, according to him, what he has told, if you don't spend that money, because you have put your requirement, we have provided money to your organization. And if you are not able to spend that money during that stipulated period, that means you are inefficient. You ask money, but you are not able to spend it properly, judiciously, and some money remains and you are returning it. So it is not given for returning, but it is given for spending for the specific person purpose for which it is given. Anyhow, now let us see. There are few steps during the formulation of a budget. It is given very well in your study material also, but we will see what are the steps involved while preparing the budget. First thing is your, what we call budgetary cycle. In budgetary cycle, we see that what are the requirements of different units for which particular period that money is required, and you that recurring amount or the capital items needed, whether those things are available or not, whether they are spent in the budget or not. The people get the information from every unit, every section, and it is consolidated and presented to the your PME section, what we call uh, monitoring and project monitoring section will be there. From through that, it goes to finance. That is what we call during a particular year, every financial, before financial year. Another is that you have to see the what is the period of budget. Normally, it is financial year, April 1st to 31st March. So that is to be kept in mind, that when it has to be spent. Then another thing is in how much uh, money you require based on the previous year's estimates. How much you spent. You given some estimate to government, they provided budget, and you have spent. Whether that money was sufficient in previous year to your requirements, or there was some shortage. Based on that, you ask for money next year or for the coming year. So what we call as the initial phase. And then after getting the information from each unit, what do? First, you prepare the budget for every unit. So we call formulation of unit budget. And then what you do? You consolidate the budget's requirements of each unit and make it as a single uh, money required. Suppose you reprography section says they require 20,000. Acquisition section for books requires some 2 lakhs rupees. Some periodical section is there which is subscribing to the journals. They may ask for some say 50 lakhs or 60 lakhs. All those requirements of different budgets are consolidated, and then further process goes. Once you have consolidated the requirements of different units, then you have to provide justification. What is my why justification? Because suppose you ask some 30,000 rupees for reprography, then the organization will say, why you need so much amount, 30,000 rupees for reprography? You should provide the justification. Yes, we have to provide purchase papers worth at least 8 to 10,000 every year for providing photocopies. We need some toner. We need to provide the annual maintenance contract for the machine. We need some, suppose some part is broken, then you have to purchase that. You have to pay the salaries of the persons who operator or something. Whatever it may be, you have to give justification. And suppose they ask why you need 50 lakhs rupees for general subscription. So you have to say that previous year we spent about 38 lakhs rupees for general subscription. So there is every year some escalation. Escalation means enhancement in the subscription price. There may be enhancement in the postal charges to be journals to be acquired. There may be enhancement in the exchange rate of foreign currency with Indian currency. So for that purpose, you have to give justification, and then only it will be finalized. After giving justification, it will be budget will be finalized. Then finally, budget format and contents are to be shown. If you see your study material on page number 165, if you can see leisurely also, they have given an example of what are the, because they always, when you prepare a budget and account, there will be two things. There will be your inputs, what you are getting. That is what we call revenues, and that is in other way you call it as income. And similarly, on the other side, it will be expenditure. How much you are receiving and how much you are spending. So income and expenditure. So if you see as the revenue or the income for the library, they have certain things. You get block grant, you get some money from University Grants Commission, so we call UGC grant. You get some money out of your fees if it is a academic institution. We call allocations from the parent body. You get, suppose in case of public library, public library run with the government grant, which is in turn given by the public as a cess over the property tax. About 6 to 8% cess is collected on the property tax, and that amount is given with some matching ground or with some additional resources to the like the public library. Similarly, so we call it as cess and taxes collected as a income or revenue. Then sometime you are charging money if person who has borrowed the book becomes late, overdue charges we call it. So all those things also as a revenue, some fines, some overdue charges, some deposits in the bank from where you get the interest, some registration fee, some places the money is charged for registration of members, endowment, then donations. Somebody give donations to the library, that is also accounted. Then library fee, service charges, even old newspaper which is concerned, they are collected in the library is sold, some money is received, that is also put into as a income to the library. So many things, interest on deposits, recoveries towards loss of books. If somebody loses the, uh, So that also is taken into account. I think there is some disturbance, please. Those who are not muted, please mute. So that money also is taken into account. Similarly, on the expenditure side, sometimes salaries and wages are accounted. In government libraries, it is not accounted because it comes from a separate separate budget head. But here, it is given example, some of the libraries, they also account for salaries and wages. Then how much is for spending for books or reading materials, how much you spend for subscription to periodicals, how much you expend, need some money for stationery, for postal charges, for if it is a rented building, then for that rent to be paid, some binding charges, photocopies, insurance, maintenance charges. If you conduct some training, seminars, National Library Week, like example they are given, you may, in addition to National Library Week, also sometime you organize some workshop or some trainings or some seminars. So even to organize some cultural programs. So such amount will be there. And also sometime non-recurring expenditure over building extension or on some equipment and furniture. There will be normally, for to understand, for your information, there will be two things. We call it as recurring expenditure and non-recurring expenditure. Recurring expenditure means you know that every year you are required that much amount or a little more for a particular type of activity. For example, to acquire some documents, to pay subscription to the periodicals, to provide reprography service, to provide literature service. You know how much you need. It is a recurring expenditure. Every year that is required to spend. But sometime what happens, no, you don't know. There will be, you need to expand your library, some extension. One room is to be created or one portion is to be created because you are finding shortage of space. So you need a special grant for that. That is what we call non-recurring. Will you construct a building every year, or will you go for extension of the building, library building every year? No, it is a rare activity. Sometime you need, sometime maybe once in 15 years or 10 years you need some money. Do you whitewash or paint the building every year? No. Maybe once in 5 years, once in 8 years. At that time, you require some money to whitewash or paint the building. So, such are non-recurring expenditures. Recurring means required every year. Non-recurring means not required every year. Now, let us see what are different methods of budget preparations. Normally, there are few ways how the budget is prepared or how the money is given to the libraries. One thing is what you do, compare it by comparing the previous year, how much you spent and how much you require. Suppose you don't know also, you may see how your neighbor's library, how much they are spending on the resources. Based on that, you may make a rough estimate for different services provided by other libraries. You also, if you want to introduce, how much money you will be requiring. So you have to compare either previous year's expenditure. In addition, suppose if you want to introduce new service, you find out which library is providing that service and how much they are incurring approximately. You may also propose to your organization that you want to introduce such and such thing, such new service, and we need that much money. So you can give justification. Other libraries also, where they are providing, it is good, useful to the clients. So if you want to introduce, how much additional money you will be requiring, or if simply you can compare with your own library's expenditure of previous year and just to propose. So we call it is by comparison also you can do. And then, as I told, another method is what we call work program. So, what programs or services you are going to provide, and there may be normally there will be always enhancement or increase in number of users. So, how based on the your program, work program, how much money you need for any new facility to be introduced or any services to be provided, and either existing services or future services, what we call anticipated services, and also what we call the number of users. There may be increase in maybe some visitors, or sometime every year you are calling some scholars from outside, those who can use or for internship, etc. So you need additional money. So you have to specify the program, work program, and accordingly you may need. And there are certain standards and norms. Based on that also, you can formulate the budget. You know, say, Ranganathan also has given the standards and norms for the different libraries, and following that, or seeing the current norms, how much you need for more different items that can be estimated. One of the method is per capita method. Per capita means what? How many users are there? Students, scholars, faculty members. How many users will be there for a library? And you can have a roughly head counting. Suppose there are 300 users. So per user, how much money you are proposing? Maybe 25 per head, if it is a faculty, maybe 100, 200, 300, whatever norms are there, accordingly, you can ask the money. We call it as a per capita proposals you are giving based on the how many users are there, and based on that many number of users divided by multiplied by some amount, that is known as per capita method. And also you can other way, you can have the standards budget ratios based on which you can propose, or there will be what we call proportional method. You have to whatever money is given, you have to see that suppose there are your organization gets say 10 crores. So what percentage of that 10 crores is assigned to the library? Maybe 5%, 6%, sometime even less. Or if it is the organization is liberal, they may give even more than 6% also. In proportion method, if we say what it is recommended, that suppose a university library is there, a university gets some amount, few crore rupees. So what they say, universities budgets 6.5 or even more can be given to as a library budget. That means it is proportion of the budget. Part of the budget is given as the library budget. But normally, many times it happens that the universities or organizations, they don't keep in mind that percentage. Sometimes less amount is given, sometimes a little more is given. So, but the proportion method is one of the method which can be followed by giving a portion or a ratio of your total budget received for the organization. Out of that, a specific percentage, 6%, 6%, 7% may be given to the library. Then, main thing is there are certain what we call the budgeting techniques or budgeting methods. There are few methods have been listed, and out of that you can uh, follow any, your organization can follow any of these methods. About one is line item method, another is lump sum method. One part type of budgeting is program budgeting, performance budgeting, and also with what we call PPBS, planning, programming, budgeting system, PPBS, and zero-based budgeting. I will tell about those things. Suppose if it is a line item budgeting, there what we do, what are different categories, broad categories under which you want to make the prepare the estimates and then provide it to your organization. When you get the budget, you have to mark capital items, how much you are going to spend for recurring, how much you are going for non-recurring. List out the items and allocate the amount for each item. We call it line item wise. Line item means item wise you are preparing the budget. And in this, there are, it is assumed that this type of budgeting is also good for the organization, like institutions like libraries. Another method is lump sum. The method, the term lump sum itself is very clear. You will be giving certain amount, given certain amount for your library. Maybe say they say we are giving 50 lakhs to your library. You have to make breakup yourself. Yourself means library head along with his team. He may decide, or you can consult your library committee also and make the breakup. Whatever amount is given, how much out of 50 lakhs, how much you want to spend for journal subscriptions, how much you want to spend for the acquiring printed books, how much you want to spend for the items like online databases, or if you want to get back volumes of the journals which are not there with you in the computerized form, in the form of a database, or if you want, how much you want to spend for services, how much for reprography, how much for literature search, how much for preparation of bibliographies, how much for static service, how much you want to spend for providing translation service to get it from outside. Every breakup you have to do. The organization or parent body will not give you as this much for subscription, this much for documents acquisition, this much for services. Like that, they will not tell. They will give you a lump sum amount, and the librarian and his team has to decide how much for each type of service, for each type of acquisition, how much amount is to be spent. That is what we call lump sum. And under another type is what we call program budgeting. What kind of programs your library is running? Even your acquisitions is a one part of your program. Your subscription to journals one type of program. You have to divide your activities into number of programs, different services. As I told, listed earlier, that your bibliography services, internet searching and browsing and providing literature search and providing technical processing, acquisition of material, acquisition of stationery, all those things you have to make certain programs. Under that you have to, this is this much for reprography, this much for acquisition, this much for technical processing, this much for general maintenance, and all those things you have to make the program wise budgeting. Sometime I remember that your study material says mobile services. Some public library is there. They have introduced mobile library. A bus is there in which books are arranged, that goes every day in one colony, another other area, the third day other area, and provide services. A specific budget is given for that particular thing. So like that, you specify the program, and accordingly each program, how much money is required, that is to be mentioned. Then performance budgeting. We call performance budget is also good. That is what we call, how was the performance of the organization or your library, and whether you are able to, during given period, you are able to spend the previous year, what money is given, have you acquired all the things judiciously and the right, because money is given, it is a principle of library to provide right information or right document to right person in the right time or minimum time, so that it satisfies the all. And another principle says you have to provide the required information to the user in the stipulated period or the stipulated time, spending minimum of the amount. So all those things taking into account how you have performed based on your performance of previous year, as well as your what we call the during the financial year, you can project your coming year's estimates, provide it to the organization, and the organization will provide you the budget. So here performance is taken into account. But there is another technique, what we call planning, programming, budgeting system. Two aspects are there. Here, program is also there and planning is also there. So this kind of budgeting was proposed by, there is a what we call Rand Corporation. They have provided this kind of budgeting, which requires both the things. You have to plan also, and you have to combine your performance of previous year and your planning for this year. Both combined together, the budget is given. So if you see your study material also, the 5-6 points are given. What are some steps are given? There it says identifying the objectives of the library, presenting some alternate ways to achieve the objectives. Means first thing is there, we have to naturally, whatever money is given, that is what you are, why you are spending that money, just to get the material and provide the services in order to achieve the organization goals, that is given here. And also you have to explore the alternate ways to achieve those goals. If you are not able to achieve goals with this normal budget or with your normal performance, then you have to search for alternative things how you can achieve those objectives. Then also it is given you have to your resource requirement should be related to different programs which have been introduced in your library or in your organization. And also resource inputs also should be related to the budget and also accomplishment of programs. That means for which the money is given for a specific program, you should spend that money for that specific program only and see that that program is properly accomplished and your goals or your objectives are fulfilled. If you are not able to fulfill, then it is a failure. You cannot say that it is a success. So in order to, if you see your study material, a flow diagram is also given, which itself depicts how the PPBS or the planning program and programming budgeting system works. That is, first thing is you have to identify the objectives. Then you have to prepare the programs to achieve those objectives and the period or the term of the plan during which you are supposed to fulfill those objectives. And then also management information system to be provided during that plan, and also improved budgeting mechanism to be taken place for the future program decisions. And finally, it says you have to translate the program decisions into budgetary decisions. What you have made a program that you will do this activity under this particular program, and what are different activities you have proposed that you will be going to do it or to perform it, and whether you are able to fulfill those activities during that program. And then you have to relate these objectives to your money given to you. Finally, what we call the zero-based budgeting. What is meant by zero-based? Actually, I remember when I was working in a library, at the time, government has issued a circular that they are introducing zero-based budgeting, and we were also asked for our library propose the without considering the previous year's activity. You have to consider each activity. Suppose library is performing acquisition of books, subscription to periodicals, providing services like reprography, translation, or literature search, preparation of bibliography. You have to, each program should be seen as if it is a fresh activity, as a fresh activity. Don't consider what was there in previous year, but see as a new activity and propose whether a particular activity is useful to the organization's members, whether they want to continue a particular specific service, or they say it is useless. Then you have to discontinue and propose as a new zero-based service. How much money you need for this service, how much you need for this, as a fresh you propose, and you have to collect this information from each unit, and we identify that as what we call decision packages. And what you do, you have to rank the activities which require money, and out of ranking, the top first ranking are go in that ranking order and see that for which activities, for which programs the money is to be provided. So like that, what we call here also, for each unit, what you are doing, you are identifying the goals and objectives, and you are giving among those objectives also some priorities, which one is needed, which one is not needed, which is needed earlier, which can be postponed for future. And you have to, like that, you have to identify each decision unit, and then finally what you have to do, you have to formulate the decision packages, and then accordingly evaluate. You have to rank it and say which is of most priority and which is of less priority, and finally naturally you have to go for more prioritize item first and postpone the less priority things for future. So under budgeting, zero-based budgeting, though it was introduced in a, as I told in when while I was working at the time also it was circular came and our organization has told you identify the units, get the information which is useful, which is less useful, and all those things. But what I find that in the future years, that thing was discontinued, and the budget, regular budget, was giving that kind of activity was not carried out every year as it was suggested in the circular. So I think even the best thing is to give the go for the performance-based budgeting, or uh, sometime even lump sum budgeting works. It depends on the type of library, type of organization, and what kind of services they need. Based on that, one of the techniques of budgeting can be adopted. Of course, the in government organization, as the requirements are given, they in the first part of the financial year, they provide the part budget. Later on, they provide, we have to again see that whatever money is given to us during a specific period, if we have spent it, even the financial year is not over, because financial year starts from 1st April, ends in on 31st March. But what we find, up to September, how much, or up to October, how much amount we have spent out of the given. But normally, what happens, what my understanding is that we spent more in the month of December, November, December, because the we need more money for subscription to, particularly I am talking about special libraries. In the special libraries, we subscribe to large number of journals, print journals, online journals. And contrary to the budget year is from 1st April to March 31st. But the most of the publishers, publishing journals, their publication of periodicals starts from 1st January and on 31st December. So both the things that we call as calendar year, 1st January to 31st December, calendar year. And most of the journals which are published from abroad or even from India, they run from January to December. So we may have to pay the advance subscriptions in the month of, we start our activities right from October. The committee meeting takes place, and then we decide what we are going to get for the coming year. And then what happens? We obtain required we prepare the list of journals, any additional journal is to be acquired or any journal is to be deleted. Like that, we obtained the recommendations and approvals in the month of November, and the activity of paying subscriptions start from 1st December. And before the end of the December, normally 90% of the subscriptions we pay to the publisher, because it has to be paid in advance, so that we should not miss what is published from 1st January onwards. Because some publishers are very specific. If you don't pay in advance, they will not send you the issue published in the month of January. Most of them, they provide. Very few publishers are they very rigid. They say you have to pay in advance. If you don't pay in advance, then what happens? It will be your.
Okay.
Hello? Yes? So it will be so like that it will be. So it is in a nutshell, we have completed the your chapter on financial management and budgeting, and next class we will be seeing about costing. So any doubts, please? Anything you would like to ask before I close? If there are no doubts, and if you would like, we will be closing. If there are no doubts, I will be closing the class now. Thank you for patiently listening.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.